Hey guys, my name is Nicolette Mashile. I am also known as the Financial Bunny. Welcome to the Financial Bunny TV. Today we're talking all things balloon payments. If you ever find yourself in a situation where you have applied for a car loan and the offer from the bank comes back with a balloon payment, I want you to stop and come and watch this video. I'm hoping that you will find it before you sign on the dotted line. I think it's important to understand what you are getting yourself into, because there are some people that balloon payments are made for, some people that they are not made for. Now, before I get into this video, please remember that none of my videos constitute as financial advice. If you are, however, looking for financial advice, please speak to somebody that is certified and registered with the FSCA. So let's start off with defining what a balloon payment is. A balloon payment basically is a deferred amount of the total cost of that car. So let's say, for instance, you have found a shiny, beautiful car and it's costing you 400,000 Rand. A certain portion of that 400,000 Rand will be deferred, and that's what we call the balloon. So before I get ahead of myself, let's take a couple of steps back, right? You've walked into the dealership and you've identified a beautiful car that you absolutely love and you want to buy. Now, the car is 400,000 Rand. First thing you have to ask yourself is, do I have 400,000 Rand to pay for this brand new car? Maybe you do not. So then you have to look at the banks or other financial institutions that offer these types of loans, car loans, vehicle asset financing loans, right? So you look to the banks. Your F&I specialist at the dealership will then go out and find a loan for you or try to secure a loan for you. By the way, the F&I specialist is the finance and insurance specialist, right? If you don't want to go through the F&I specialist, then you can either go through your personal private banker, or you can get the offer to purchase and you can go out into the different branches and see if you can secure yourself a car loan, right? Once you go into the banks, they will start to crunch their numbers. They're going to look at your affordability and your credit status. There are certain banks that don't necessarily look very thoroughly on the credit status, and it's a new thing in South Africa. There's a professional car loan or for young professionals. There's certain banks that don't look at the credit status, so they'll offer everybody prime plus one or prime minus one. It depends, right? But generally, what would happen is that financial institutions like banks will then look at your affordability and your credit status. This is to ensure that you can afford this new loan that you are, or rather the repayment of the loan that you're looking at, but also to look at how have you been in terms of your credit history. Are you somebody that pays back or somebody that doesn't pay back? Nonetheless, they will then make an offer to you if they do want to approve and go ahead with the loan application. Some instances, you may find that your approval comes with a balloon payment. Now, you need to stop at that point and ask yourself, what does this actually mean to me? Because often people who advocate for balloon payments argue an issue of affordability. But the question is, where do you look at affordability? Do you look at it per month repayment, or do you look at the total cost of credit? And let me paint this in a little bit more clearer with numbers, right? So let's go back to our example of you are borrowing, or rather you're looking at purchasing a car that is worth 400,000 Rand. If the bank says to you, we're willing to borrow you the 400,000 Rand to purchase this car of your dreams. However, we're going to include a balloon payment of 30% over 5 years, right? So essentially what they're saying is that on the 400,000 Rand that they're going to be borrowing you, they're going to include a 30% balloon payment. That means that they're going to subtract, right? They're going to subtract 120,000 Rand. The 120,000 Rand is not totally gone. It gets deferred in terms of the repayment, right? So it sits at the end of the loan term. So in other words, this car that you are buying now is essentially only 280 for the basis of your monthly installment. However, it's very important to understand this. The 280 basically is the capital balance that you owe plus the 120, but the 120 only comes into effect at the end of the loan, right? So when they are working out what your monthly installment is, remember there's two portions that make up your monthly installment. Number one is, of course, the capital balance, so the calculation on that capital balance of how much would you pay us every single month. But the second portion is that they have to add in the interest charge. So let's say, for instance, the bank is given to you at 11%. If they take that 11%, they have to effectively calculate the 11% over the entire 400,000, not just on the 280, right? And the reason for this is because, remember, banks come in as a partner to you to help you purchase the car of your dreams. First and foremost, you went to them and you said, come, please, I need a partner to help me purchase this car. And that's why you'll hear people saying, oh, it's not your car, it's the bank car, or whatever, right? So essentially, because the bank has come in as a partner, and they are the muscle, they are the money, they then take 400,000 Rand and pay the dealership so that you can get your car. They're not going to say to the dealership, but in our agreement with this person, we have a 30% balloon payment. So essentially, we'll only give you 120,000 when they give us our 120,000. No, the dealership wants the full price of the car. So the bank pays the full 400,000. And that is why the bank will charge you the interest charge on the full 400,000 Rand. This is very important to understand because often this is the portion that makes the cost of credit even more expensive. But let's park the cost of credit for now and look at why some people would potentially favor the balloon payment. On that same deal, so let's go back to the deal. It's a 400,000 Rand car. You get it at 11% over 5 years. If you do not take a balloon payment of 30%, your monthly installment would be 8,000 Rand, 8,700, plus or minus 8,700. Could be a little bit less, could be a little bit more because there's account fees and all those kind of things. And obviously it depends on, interest rates in the market, right? So 8,700 is what you would pay per month if you don't have the balloon payment. If you were to get one with a 30% balloon payment, so same scenario, 400,000 Rand car over 5 years at 11% interest rate, but you now add a 30% balloon payment, you're deferring 120,000 to the end of the actual loan. You would pay 6,540. So your monthly installment will come down to 6,540 from 8,700. That is a 2,100 type of saving, right? I mean, it's probably a little bit more, a little bit less. What is it? 8,7. Let's just quickly do some quick maths here, or precise maths rather. That's what we want to do. Minus 6,540 is basically 2,160. So essentially 2,160 is the saving that you would be making, right? So as I say, the people who favor this look at it and they're like, the balloon payment makes this car a little bit more affordable to me. I'm only going to be paying 6,540. And that makes a lot of sense, right? As to why people would then want a balloon payment. But remember, at the end of the 5 years, the 120,000 comes knocking and the banks want it all, right? So what are then your options, right? The options that you then have is that you can either refinance that 120,000 Rand or you can basically kick the can down the road. What do I mean by kick the can? Basically kick the dead can down the road. Is that what usually people do is that they want to fold this balloon payment amount into a trade-in agreement or a trade-in structure. So let's start off with asking ourselves the question, what is actually a trade-in? A trade-in is I have a car and I want to trade my car in for a newer car or a newer model or a different car altogether. So I go to the dealership and I say to them, I have this specific car, so let's use my own car. I've got a Scirocco R, VW Scirocco R 2015, and I want to trade this car in for maybe a BMW that costs R1 million, right? But on that BMW that costs, on a BMW that costs R1 million, however, on the Scirocco, I still owe the bank 120,000 because I've come to the end of my my loan period and I owe them 120,000. The dealership then says to me, okay, not a problem. We will buy the Scirocco from you. And what we will try to do is give you enough money so that you can settle even the 120,000 that you owe the bank, right? On condition that you buy a car from us, because that is what a trade-in is, right? So we're together, so sharp. They buy your Scirocco from me, they buy the Scirocco from me. Let's say they offer me 140,000 Rand. 120, I go and settle the loan with the bank. I'm left only with 20,000. That 20,000 will then either go into the new deal that I am trying to restart again, the new car that I'm trying to buy again, which of course is the BMW. But the likelihood is that I probably can't afford the BMW, so I'm forced to take another balloon payment. Or that the car that you have, by the time you want to sell it after 5 years, it doesn't even attract a market value of 120,000 Rand or more. Why? Because cars are depreciating assets. So you need to make sure that you are also buying a car that is going to at least retain some value, that even if the dealership is saying we can't do a trade-in where we can give you enough to cover your balloon payment, you are like, actually, maybe what I need to do is to do a private sell and kind of find a willing buyer, willing seller, which is yourself, where at least I'm covering the balloon payment, so that you don't find yourself in a situation where you actually have no deposit now for this new car, but you've actually given the dealership a car, because all the money the dealership could give you is to settle that balloon payment. Because the other way it could look is that the dealership can say to you, actually, for your Skiroko, it's 5 years old. Sometimes it's not even 5 years old. It's even more, because sometimes you bought the car secondhand. We can only give you 90,000. On 90,000, you still owe the bank 30,000 Rand, because they can only settle 90,000. So you still owe the bank another 30,000 Rand, and that needs to now come out of your pocket, right? Or you need to refinance that. So it's important to understand how these things work, so that you don't find yourself in a situation where you are literally kicking the debt can down. And if you look at, yeah, you've got a saving of 2,100, but at the end of the loan deal, you still owe the bank 120,000 versus somebody that would have paid 8,700 and they don't owe the bank anything. So these are some of the things that you need to consider if you are looking to take a car with a balloon payment. It's really fully understanding what your situation looks like, so that you don't find yourself in a very iffy position. Some people then argue, yeah, but I can invest the 2,100. The reality is, yes, you can invest it. There's nothing stopping you from investing it. But remember, the bank is charging you 11%. 11%. Where are you going to find an investment that is going to give you a return of 11% per annum? Think about it, right? Think about it. Anyway, that's me. I'll leave it there. See you guys on the next one. Mwah.